Welcome back, guys. Equity Podcast. Coach Berek here, and I got Coach Dave here as well. We're here. We're here to give you the tools to be fit for life. And today, Dave's here for our quarterly update on what we're doing with the programming. Sorry for not letting Dave talk. I like to hear myself talk. So, when we do our programming in the gym, we kind of have a plan, right? It's not just random stuff thrown on the wall. We have a plan. So, just to kind of review from the last time, what is our overall plan from the year?
Yeah, so starting with the end of the open and quarterfinal season, which was where our sort of game season ended as a gym, we move into our strength phase, where we spent most of the spring into the early part of summer looking at that. Then we went into our power phase, which lasted from summer into just here recently into the early fall. And now we'll be moving into more of what we call the conditioning phase, where we'll start working on things such as our cardiorespiratory endurance, muscular stamina, kind of as a prelude to preparing ourselves for the competition season coming up for those that are so inclined. But it's good for everyone, regardless of your competitive goals and so forth. So that's kind of the idea there. And then we'll move into that open prep season around January to prepare for that 3-week open in March, and then quarterfinals for those that move on.
Make it.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. So our general program is GPP, which is general physical preparedness. Whatever life throws at us, we want to be able to do that thing. And then we're just going to have a slight bias towards strength, then towards power, then towards conditioning, and then towards our open style type workouts, where we're going to be working on pacing and skill acquisition.
Yeah, you're kind of sort of learning the art of competition, right? Sort of thing. That's kind of what we're looking at during that part of the season. Yeah.
And that's part of the reason that we have the tracks, is so that if the competing isn't your thing, we still have the sweat tracks where we're still going to be getting really fit, and even with the competition, we're still going to be getting fit for life.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so we just finished the power phase.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're moving into the conditioning phase. It's kind of like October to December, right? So what are you kind of briefly mentioned them before, but like what are the big overarching the concepts that we're going to be dealing with?
Yeah, so if you think about it from the 10 general physical skills standpoint, during the strength phase we focused on strength, right?
Yeah.
During the power phase we looked at power and speed as kind of our primary goals that we wanted to address. Now we're kind of moving into that more cardiorespiratory endurance as well as muscular stamina. Yeah, so there, the idea to be able to move loads longer, to move your body weight over longer periods of time, to be able to control your breathing during longer duration workouts and those sorts of things.
Right. I remember when I first started getting into this, I'm like, well, I don't understand this difference between cardiovascular endurance and stamina. And then I did Cindy, and I'm like, oh, stamina. Because for me, like those squats, like if you can do 10 squats really fast, that's really good, but then you start feeling that burn in your legs.
Yeah.
But then you start getting better at it, and now you can do 20 squats until you feel that burn. Well, your stamina just got better.
Sure.
Right? That muscle stamina, being able to do bigger sets for longer. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, we've all experienced those workouts where the limiting factor is I can't catch my breath, right? I'm breathing too hard. I can't pick up the barbell. I can't
and most
jump
people
up.
understand that.
Right.
They can feel that.
Yeah.
Right.
And then you've had those other workouts where there's a lot of pull-ups or a lot of barbell work, and your muscles just start to fatigue to a point where you can't continue to move.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're talking about with
So the
muscular
limiting
stamina.
factor in some of those workouts, it's not the breathing.
No.
Like you can breathe fine.
Right.
You're not breathing normally, but you might be breathing a little heavy, but that's not the limiting factor. The limiting factor is I've done like 60 push-ups and my chest just can't do anymore.
Doesn't want to do another push-up. So
yeah.
And there's nothing you can do but just sit there and wait and recover.
Yeah. So we're going to start working on that. Hey, how can we build that capacity?
Absolutely.
Right. All right. So How in the world do we do that?
Well, the first thing you do is you look at the workout structure. So coming out of the power phase, we kind of had a little bit of a focus on a lot of interval work where you're doing a lot of a moderate amount of work, but in a compressed time period, right? So the idea there is power output, right? You're doing a lot of work for a short period of time, then you're resting, recovering, and doing it again, right? To see how long you can keep recovering and resting. So that builds that engine from a power perspective. Now we're looking more at building the engine from an endurance perspective, which means you have to have longer duration workouts with more constant work,
Right.
as opposed to that work rest.
That stop instead of stop and go. It's
Yeah.
can we keep moving, just consistent movement.
Yeah. So a great example would be, for a power output workout, it might be to do 15 calories on the bike and then do 10 pull-ups and then rest, for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And you do that as fast as you can, and then rest. Well, when we're getting into more of a conditioning concept, here we're looking at more like 30, 40, 50 cals on the bike at a time.
Right.
20, 30 pull-ups at a time.
Yeah.
Kind of working toward being able to efficiently move through those longer, consistent movement type of workouts.
And when you're trying to do that for, like, let's say we're trying to do that for 3 rounds for example, if you try to attack that workout like an interval workout where you just go full out, you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
Whereas if you kind of take that as a more consistent approach, you might be moving slower at the start, but you're gonna be able to keep moving. Whereas if you empty that tank too soon, you're just gonna be sitting around.
Sure, yeah. With power output workouts, when you're building that horsepower, it's all about full send or close to it, right?
Yeah.
Here we're talking more about learning how to pace, right?
Yeah.
You have to pace from a cardio perspective, pace from a muscular endurance perspective, and so it's understanding a different aspect of yourself and then developing that, right? So if you try to do too much too soon in a duration of 20 or 25 minutes, it can be a long workout and a miserable workout, right? So,
Yeah. We've been talking about zones a bit lately. That's really hot in CrossFit right now.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things, in those intervals, we're probably playing a lot more in that 4 and 5 range,
sure.
right?
Absolutely.
When you're pushing that envelope. Whereas if you're getting into that 4 or 5 range consistently, you're probably not doing that workout as fast as you can. Actually, we're probably going to stay in that 3 and 4, and then towards that end of the workout, hey, that's when we might hit a little bit of that zone 5.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, to clarify as well, it doesn't mean you don't do any intervals when you're in the conditioning.
Absolutely.
So, but it just might be longer intervals. So,
Yes.
for example, you might do 5 1,000 meter repeats on a rower, right? That's a perfect conditioning workout because you're doing a lot of work, and even though you're resting between your efforts, you're doing lots of work during when you are working. So,
and even inside of this conditioning thing, we might do a very powerful style workout,
sure. Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
This is a GPP, so it's not like this is the only thing we're doing. Again, it's just a slight bias towards that.
Well, in a perfect world, right, we'll be able to develop our conditioning, that stamina, that endurance, and then sort of at least maintain most of what we develop through our strength and power cycles.
Yeah.
We're not going to be as strong as we were in the spring, but hopefully we'll be close. Right?
Yeah. What else, or what are some other things that we might be doing?
So again, with the longer duration machines, obviously we can't run too much as the season's coming up where it's getting dark earlier, so we can't have people running outside, obviously. So unfortunately, I know everybody loves to hear this, we'll be making good use of the machines throughout the winter. We'll also be doing workouts that involve a lot of barbell cycling. So barbell cycling may mean touch and go, it may mean fast singles, but the idea being that you have to cycle a lot of reps and consecutively.
Right.
So for example, a 21-15-9 workout that might include, power clean and jerks or something like that. Yeah, you might not touch and go your way through that, but you're going to be doing fast singles.
You're going to be consistently moving.
Yeah, exactly right. Exactly right. So we'll employ some of that. We'll employ some gymnastics workouts involving larger sets of gymnastics. So again, we're working on that efficiency, being able to move not only those external loads, but our body weight over longer periods of time.
Yeah.
So we'll see some 20 to 25 minute time domain workouts where it's going to involve machines, barbell cycling, gymnastics, and bigger sets.
Yeah. When we're talking about fitness in general, we talk about the big three. What are we doing? We're doing monostructural movements, we're doing gymnastics, and we're doing weightlifting.
Right.
And that's literally all the things you just said. That's what helps make you fit for life, right?
Yes.
This is what we're doing, right? Nothing. Like, yes, we may bias this very slightly towards the open, but we're still doing all the things to help you be fit for life.
Yeah, those modalities, those three modalities you mentioned, they're the tools, right? How you employ those tools will determine sort of what the outcome is, right? So
Right.
we're just going to employ these tools slightly differently
Yeah.
in a conditioning phase than we would in a power phase or a strength phase, but they're still going to be the same tools.
Yeah. Sweet. I think that's pretty much all we got. You got anything else you want to kind of...
Yeah, no, I just wanted to reiterate what you mentioned earlier is that, don't expect like this, monumental change with what we're doing. We're still going to be doing, cross training, right? We're still going to be looking at all the different modalities and different styles of workouts. It's just that at least a couple of times a week we're going to focus on this conditioning stuff to try to start building up that conditioning. And then once all those tools are put together at the end, we'll be prepared to sort of employ this in that more competitive setting where we start getting ready for the open again, even for those that aren't competitive or planning to compete. Just going through that process will get a lot of benefits.
Yep, absolutely.
So.
Constantly varied functional movements at a relative high intensity. That's what we do.
Absolutely.
All right. We appreciate you guys for taking some time out of your day to check us out and try and help you gather your tools for that toolbox to help you be fit for life. Thanks to Dave for throwing down some knowledge with me. And
My
thanks,
pleasure.
guys.
See you
Cheers.
guys. Take care.